Common Sense with the Senior Delinquents.
When Mike Tyson chomped on Evander Holyfield's ear, who knew snack lovers would be chewing on Mike's bites years later? This has sparked other celebrities to have their own line of body part products. Johnny Depp's Juicy Fruity Fingers, Michael Jackson's Yummy Nougat Noses, and Robert De Niro's Sour Balls.
You sucking my balls? Are you sucking my balls? Nobody else here, so I guess you're sucking my balls.
That was great. Jamie, I got to tell you, where do we draw the line? I tell you, I draw it with celebrity weenies. I'm telling you. Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Uncommon Sense with the Senior Delinquents. And I've got to introduce my great co-host. You know who I am talking about, Jamie McWilliams, who is in beautiful Tampa, Florida. And that was absolutely fantastic, Jamie. I tell you, both of us, because of the business we're in, we've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of celebrities. Sure, granted, golfers primarily and athletes, but yep. I tell you, and I'm sure hopefully you feel the same way, as big as these people are, they have huge personalities known by thousands of people, followers and stuff. After you talk to them, you realize, Jamie, you know what? These are just people just like you and me. Do you agree?
You know, when you have the interviews with the people, a lot of times it's very superficial because they're there to do the interview. They're there to be on their best behavior. So you can't draw a complete conclusion about them because they are people. And, you know, that's just a fact of life. And a lot of times, though, you do get some impressions and they really are genuine. Like, I'm sure you've met at some point Peter Jacobson in golf.
Yes.
And he thanks me for doing an interview with him. One of the nicest people ever. I attribute it to good parenting.
I like
Dennis,
that.
Tell me about some of the athletes who made the biggest impression on you, either the most famous you dealt with or just in some way really surprised you, but you know, the ones that really socked you a little bit.
Well, you mentioned Peter Jacobson. I've had the opportunity to interview him when he was playing at a tour event out here in Las Vegas. You're right, very affable guy. Of course, I've met a lot of tour players, both on the PGA Tour as well as LPGA Tour players, and that's all great. But I was thinking about that, Jamie, when we were talking, and you want to know who the largest celebrity I think I have ever met, and this is when I was a kid.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, you're crying all the time. Well, you ain't never gonna rabbit and you ain't no friend of mine.
Elvis Presley. What do you think of that?
Wow. You were all shook up?
All shook. I was all shook up, baby.
Ain't never gonna rabbit and you ain't no friend of mine.
But you know something, Dennis? We are senior delinquents, and most of the people that I think made the biggest impressions were people from the past. Like back when I was doing sports,
yeah,
the people who made the biggest impression were Mickey Mantle.
Here's the payoff pitch. This is it. There it goes. It's out of here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a long drive way back in center field, way back, it is.
Willie Mays, the giants of the game. And when I worked in Columbus, Ohio, because I was on the track team at Penn State, not a runner, I had an opportunity on a number of occasions to meet Jesse Owens, who had such an impact with the Olympics.
Wow.
And he was one of the sweetest, kindest gentlemen. He always took an interest in talking with you about your life, not just himself. So, you know, people like that, you look beyond it, but they really do make an impression.
Oh, they absolutely do make an impression. But I was going to ask you, Jamie, what if you really don't have anything in common with them as far as their professional life? I don't know a lot about, you know, hockey or something like that. Do you find a way to get common ground with them, Jamie?
You've, I think, been focused mostly on golf, but I
Yes.
did a lot of sports type programming. And Don Shula, when I did the Miami Dolphins highlight film, and Dr. J for NBA basketball.
Wow.
Before and after, we spent more time talking about golf because they were both avid golfers. Dr. J in Philadelphia.
That doesn't surprise
and Don
me.
Shula, he ended up owning a
Yeah.
golf course. He wanted to talk more about
About
golf.
golf.
And, are you playing? And let me tell you, a few courses and things like that. In terms of reaching out to meet celebrities, one quick story, and it shows you the impact of finding something relatable. Kevin Spacey, back a number of years ago, and my son was at Penn State, was saying how they were reaching out and they wanted to reach more college students, etc. I wrote a letter to him because he was doing the play The Iceman Cometh in New York. I looked up his background and I find out that his father and my father both had a background in aeronautical engineering.
Really?
And I
Wow.
related it to him, and I said that my son's going to Penn State. He is a theater major. Love to meet you. And then about a week and a half later, my daughter was home with her friends after school, and she comes down because I had my office in the basement at that time. She goes, "Dad, there's a Kevin somebody wants to talk to you." Well, that somebody was Kevin Spacey. And we ended up going and seeing the play. And at first we thought we were going to get blown off because we're waiting and waiting and waiting. And I thought, Brian, I don't know. It's been a while. And then we hear him yelling, "Where's Brian McWilliams? Where's Brian McWilliams?" Came out, gave him a big hug. Today, that might be a little controversial.
Yeah.
with
Oh,
Kevin
yeah.
Spacey, but gave us the time. We talked about theater. My son interviewed him. So you can reach people, but you have to do a little homework, find out what their interests are. And I just found that, it's always fascinating.
Jamie, do you think that the timing has something to do with it? Do they remain the same person, say like a quarterback? They just won a big game. They lost a big game. When you talk to them, are they the same person or maybe a little bit different?
When you approach somebody, can make a lot of difference. I did a special on the Super Bowl, and with Dick Vermeil, I interviewed him in the preview to the season in camp. And I wanted to open the show with him expressing the loss of the Super Bowl. And I only did this one time. I kept at him 6 or 7 times, waiting to be thrown out of the office.
Wow.
Just kept saying, "But what did you really feel?" I didn't want just well, we tried our best. And finally he said, "I felt the weight of the city. I felt the weight of the team, the weight of the whole population in the area that wanted us to win on my shoulders." That's what opened the program.
Wow.
And that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Now, other people, you meet him like Jack Nicklaus. Not too long ago, I saw him at least 6 or 7 times. I've met and interviewed Jack Nicklaus.
Yes, sir.
From the last time that I was here, the bunkering somehow seemed less intimidating. Did you do things with the bunkering to alter the course somewhat?
Well, I don't think it's any less intimidating.
But one time at the U.S. Senior Open, there was a gap there. And I came up and I said, "Jack, it's been a while. You might not remember." And he goes, "Well, should I?" Talk about like, oh boy. But I
come
caught my
on.
breath and I said, "No." But you know what? I said, you don't get upset about that because actors are kind of insulated.
Yeah.
They're doing their thing. But sports celebrities of that magnitude, they meet thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah.
So unless you made a horrendously great or horrendously bad impression, you can't really blame them for not remembering you right off.
No. And you know as well as I do, with all the fame somebody has, it's fleeting after a while, isn't it, Jamie?
Well, you know something, when you teach college students and you reference things in your life, like I worked at NFL Films, oh, do you remember this? You realize 2 things. Kids today really don't have much of a history background. They're
True.
in the present mostly.
True.
Number 2, you just have to bask in whatever glory you have at that time.
Right.
Like when I was on the air, when I was doing sports, you realize that over time, maybe if you were George Washington, maybe you're Abraham Lincoln, but just like with Jack Nicklaus, you say whatever fame or notoriety you think you had, it's fleeting.
Yes.
And I always say to myself, and this would be my little word of wisdom for the day, if I think that something is too incredibly important and is not going to be life-threatening, I say, in the great sweep of things, in the millions and billions of years, is it really going to matter?
Right. No, that's well said, and I couldn't agree with you more. And speaking of things not fleeting, Jamie and I want to remind you, we don't want you to miss an episode of any of our episodes on Senior Delinquents. You could go to Senior Delinquents YouTube. We're also on Getter and Rumble, but if you want the whole complete package, just go to our website, seniordelinquents.com.
And on that positive note, and maybe we will be remembered forever in eons
Here's
to come.
hoping. Here's
Senior
hoping.
Delinquents. But in the meantime, it's time to say goodbye. Hi ho, Silvers.